Welcome to Avatar Nation, a podcast all about the Netflix live adaptation of Avatar, The Last Airbender. Whether you're a longtime fan, like us, or you're new to the Avatarverse, join us as we dive into each episode and analyze the retelling of TV's greatest adventure. Everybody, welcome back. I'm your host, Pauline.
And I'm Wes. And I'm sipping on some sweet, sweet jasmine tea.
Ooh, that's a good choice for going over the first episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I'm super excited to get into it. Also, super excited to talk to you about Iroh's beard.
Uncle Iroh does have a glorious beard. I will admit that. Fire Nation's got it going on, I will just say.
Do you think it's real? Is it real?
I don't know. Maybe we should shout out the actor and be like, hey, is your beard real?
Let me know. Lie to me.
Alrighty. Well, if this is your first time listening to us, we just want to say welcome to our podcast. And just real quick, Wes and I, we are a married couple who grew up on Avatar. We got back into Avatar as adults and have the cartoon on all the time as a family. So now with the Netflix live action out, we're doing this podcast to discuss each episode, and we're doing it without spoiling any plot or future episodes since we are doing it one episode per week. So yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about Wes and I or about how and why we started this podcast, I do encourage you to listen to the very first episode that we did before this one and get to know about our journey with Avatar and why we're doing this. Before we get into this episode today, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to this podcast. We're on all of the major podcast apps. We're also now on YouTube. So YouTube recently did this cool thing where anytime we upload an episode, it just automatically pulls it into YouTube. So we are on YouTube now. We are audio only at this time. So hopefully in the near future, we can do our podcast as a video podcast.
That'd be great.
And then also, we want to shout out a special young Avatar fan. Her name is Mac. She's 10 years old, and she listened to our previous podcast episode and actually left us our very first review on Apple Podcasts.
Thank you, Mac.
So do you want to read what she said?
Mac gave us 5 stars, believe it or not. And Mac says, "Yay! I love it so much. Keep going."
Oh my gosh,
thank you, Mac.
That's so sweet, Mac. We really appreciate it for giving us our very first review. And yeah, anybody else that's enjoying this so far, we invite you to leave us a review as well on Apple Podcasts. I don't know of any other podcast apps that actually accept like written reviews and not just ratings, but yeah, even if you're not listening on Apple Podcasts, get on there and leave us a review, and that'll really help other people find us as well. So it does make a big difference.
Yes, make some comments. Let's hear from you.
Absolutely. And also, just before we get into analyzing this episode, we just want to say that if you're in Kansas City, we are actually going to be attending Planet Comic-Con Saturday, March 9th. It'll be our very first con ever, so we're not quite sure what to expect. But are you looking forward to it, Wes?
I am ready to nerd out, and I hope I don't see anyone that knows me.
Why not?
Just because I'm going to, who's this guy? But no, I'm super excited to go to Planet Comic-Con and bring my daughter and my wife and just enjoy being around other people that enjoy what we enjoy.
Can I just be honest, though? I'm a little bit intimidated and nervous to go.
What are you intimidated about?
Well, because I know that we want to dress up and we have costumes that we've used for Halloween in the past, so we still got to dig those out. But there are so many good cosplays and I'm a little bit intimidated. I'm not going to lie. They put in so much time and effort into their costume that I'm afraid ours is going to look thrown together.
I think you're thinking too much into it. Just go and have a good time.
I know.
I think that's why everyone does it. They're just having a good time.
I know,
just because someone puts more effort into it.
I'm such an overthinker. And also, we decided to do this kind of last minute. Like, we just recently bought our tickets and decided to go. So, yeah, we don't know what to expect. For those who are well-versed in going to cons and whatnot, if you have any tips to make the most out of the day, because I know it's a lot, definitely let us know. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
All right. Now that we've got that over with, are you ready to get into this episode?
All right, let's do this. So, when we are analyzing each episode, I want to start out by going over what we're going to call the episode tease. Quick details about the episode, things to know that, some people might find interesting. I don't know. Some people might not, but I like to know a little bit more about the episode. So yeah, this episode is the premiere episode, and it's titled Aang, which is interesting because it was previously reported that this was going to be titled The Last Airbender, so they must have made that change somewhere, and I wonder why they did so. But anyways, it's directed by Michael Goy. His past works include American Horror Story, Glee, Scream Queens, and then this episode is written by Albert Kim, who's the showrunner, and then Mike DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. So the original creators did help write this episode. So I think it's maybe one of two episodes that either of them had a hand in before they bounced.
Before they split.
Yes. Okay, so Wes, do you want to read our episode recap and let us know what happened in this episode?
I would love to. I'd also like to point out that as we're doing this, I personally am watching it episode by episode, meaning we watch the episode, we do the podcast. Watch the next episode, we do the podcast.
So pretty much it's going to end up being like one episode a week, right?
Agreed. Really hard not to
That is
binge,
very hard.
But I'm going to do this.
But I get why you want to do it that way, though, so then that way future episodes won't affect what we're going to talk about. That's going to be very hard, so please, guys, I know a lot of you have already finished binging all 8 episodes, but don't spoil it for us, and don't spoil it for others who have yet to watch the whole thing.
Doink.
All right, Wes, read our episode recap.
Okay. Episode 1 begins with an earthbender being captured by the Fire Nation. The Fire Lord Sozin unveils his war plan to eliminate the next Avatar, Peacekeeper and Master of all 4 elements. It is explained that according to the cycle of the Avatar, the next one is an Airbender. At the Southern Air Temple, Aang is revealed to be the Avatar, but his mentor, Monk Gyatso, is hesitant about starting the young Avatar's training too soon. However, the council says that they may not be able to wait. Gyatso breaks the news to Aang, who is afraid of the responsibility and flees on his sky bison, Appa. Powered by the comet, the Fire Nation launches an attack on the Southern Air Temple, and Gyatso gives his life defending a group of air nomad children. Meanwhile, Aang and Appa get caught up in a terrible storm and are taken down by a giant wave. Before they can drown, Aang mysteriously glows blue and freezes himself and Appa within a giant ice sphere. The story then jumps to Wolf's Cove in the Southern Water Tribe, where we encounter Katara, the last waterbender from her tribe, and her brother Sokka, both of whom stumble upon the iceberg. It suddenly explodes, emitting a blue beam and revealing an unconscious Aang. Meanwhile, Zuko, a banished Fire Nation prince, sees the blue light as a hopeful sign of finally finding the Avatar. Aang wakes up in his new surroundings and eventually realizes he's been in the iceberg for 100 years and is now the last airbender left. Zuko arrives at Wolf's Cove to find the Avatar. Sokka stands up to Zuko, but loses in a fight between them. Aang surrenders to spare the Water Tribe and subsequently escapes with help from Katara and Sokka. They flee to the Southern Air Temple ruins, where Aang discovers Gyatso's remains, triggering the mysterious blue glow again and some sort of intense power. Devastated by Gyatso's death, Aang swears to master the Avatar's ways and restore equilibrium to the world.
Okay. Thanks for reading our recap there.
It was intense. Okay, let's get into our cabbage rating. Explain what the cabbage rating is.
Okay, so you know how Rotten Tomatoes and IGN and Screen Rant, come out with ratings for games and TV shows and movies?
10-4.
So I think it'd be fun to kind of have our own rating as well. But since it's Avatar and we want it to be fun, I want to call it our cabbage rating. So what a cabbage rating is a rating from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being amazing, the best. And we'll rate each episode and give our own cabbage rating for each. So for my cabbage rating, I struggled a little bit. I gave it a 7 though, so I thought it was good. Though I feel like it could have used some improvements, which we'll, get into our thoughts because we have a lot of thoughts. But I gave it a 7 because, well, 1, it is miles ahead of the M. Night Shyamalan movie. So honestly, I'm just happy that we have something that is cast better and visually better than the movie that we got.
Ooh, thou shalt not be named.
Yes. And, I think 7 is a nice, good balanced rating. So what about you?
My cabbage rating will be a 5 right now.
5? Okay. So
I don't know what
neutral.
it will be. It is a 5. It's a soft 5.
It's kind of a neutral territory.
Yeah,
What brought it down?
To be honest with you, I watched it once, right? And I rated it a 3.
A 3?
I gave it a 3, which we'll get into. But then when I watched it again, right, I upgraded to a 5.
Wow, I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't know you were originally going to rate it so low.
I came in with such high hopes, and they knocked me down. I feel like I got punched in the face. I felt like...
Oh, no.
What? No,
That's what happens when you put all your trust in Netflix, as you kept saying in the last episode.
Yes, when I first watched it, I felt like I got punched in the face, and so so lowered my expectations and watched it again, and it wasn't as bad as previously thought.
Okay, I'm a little bit surprised because before we watched, I thought that maybe I would be the more critical one, and that you would be, all about it based on what you said in our last podcast episode.
What a twist.
But maybe it's because I went in with more realistic expectations, or expectations that weren't super high to begin with. So then those expectations were met, but you went in with super high hopes. Okay, so now I want to talk about just our personal key moments. So what I mean about key moments is that I want each of us to identify moments that stood out to us, whether it was for good reasons or bad reasons. So we'll each choose our favorite moment. So I'm calling that like our avatar state moment, a moment or aspect of the show or the episode that sent you into the avatar state because it was so good. And then also I want us to choose a not so great moment. So our least favorite moment, and I'm calling that the that's rough buddy moment in honor of our boy Zuko.
That is rough.
And then, an honorable mention if you had something else worth mentioning. That was
I like
good.
It.
So, alrighty. So for mine, I would say my avatar state moment really was like just the entire first half of the episode. As bad as it sounds, I shouldn't say enjoyed, but I thought the Fire Nation attack was good. All of the new stuff, in the first half of the episode, I thought it was done really well, and it made me feel something. So, as sad as it was, that was my best moment.
And I have to stop you because my avatar state moment was also the very beginning. The first 5-10 minutes, I was super excited. That was so good. The bending from the earthbender, oh man, it was so good.
It hooked me.
Yeah. He's running from the Fire Nation, and I didn't expect it so soon, to come out with the bending so fast, and it looked really great. And that was my avatar state moment. Kind of the same there.
Yeah, we're at least on the same wavelength there. And then my that's rough buddy moment was Grand's monologue, which I'll get more into later when we really do a deep dive. But I think it could have just been handled differently.
You look so upset about that. Just so no one can... I know no one can see her, but she was like, grand monologue.
Well, I feel bad because it's like, oh, Gran. Oh. And I think, I didn't have a problem with the actress or anything. I don't know. I feel like they did Gran dirty a little bit.
I like how she worked in like the beginning monologue that Katara normally does.
But that's what I'm saying. That was my rough buddy moment.
Really?
Was that monologue.
I feel like they worked it in there pretty
I'll explain.
Oh, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
But then my honorable mention is the fight choreography, just because it was amazing. And
which part? Just all of them? Or?
And any of the fighting really drew me in and had my attention and injected energy and just action into the episode that I think without any of the fight choreography, or if the fight choreography sucked, I think the whole episode would have been
I agree.
Really, really
the
bad.
Fight choreography was great.
Anyways, what was your rough buddy moment?
My rough buddy moment was it hurt my feelings when Katara first sees Aang which it was so quick and, over with. But I felt like they had an opportunity there.
It starts their friendship.
Yeah, Aang awakes and he sees a shining Katara, right? That was rough for me because they just moved on so quick. Was he standing or floating?
Oh, when he first came out?
Yeah.
I think he was like standing.
It looked like he was standing and then
But
just
even
slid
wasn't
down.
that was similar to the cartoon where he was like standing and then he collapsed. But then in this one, he woke up in the village surrounded by people. In the original cartoon, he woke up and saw Katara because Katara was hovering over him.
Right. And then...
But in the live action, he woke up surrounded by a group of people. So they didn't get to have that like connection.
Okay.
What's your honorable mention?
My honorable mention is Sokka deciding to go back and rescue Aang. They had me because he was walking back. She was like, hey, we need to do something. And he looked like he was just going back to, tell the kids what to do, to move on from after the Fire Nation attacked. And Aang, you're like, oh no, it looked like he was going to, let's regroup, let's get things going again. And he's like, hey, I'm giving you the command. I'm going to get this weird kid.
I thought that was good too. Okay, now it's time to dive a little bit deeper into the episode. So we just want to remind everybody, I think you already said it, we're doing it spoiler-free, plot-wise and for future episodes since Wes and we're watching this. It'll most likely be one episode a week. We're going to watch and then do a podcast episode. And we're only going to stick to the episodes that we have watched.
Which is super hard.
Which is super hard, especially since Netflix makes it so easy to just binge and we have to scramble for the remote whenever it's starting to play the next episode. And we're like, wait, stop it. Damn you, Netflix. All right. So with analyzing each episode, I want to talk about things like, the plot and the characters and the cinematography and, just do a deep dive and talk about things that stood out to us. I know especially with this episode, we have a lot to say. And I will say, I think we'll give a balanced analysis on it. Like, I don't want to be all, super negative, what is it? Negative Nancy? Negative Nelly? Which one is it?
I would go with Nancy.
Negative
Sorry,
Nancy.
Take a drink.
I just choked on my spit. Drink time. So like I was saying, I don't want to be completely like negative Nancy about the whole thing, but I don't want to blindly put the show on a pedestal just because we're longtime fans of Avatar.
Not glorify what's going on just because we love the show so much.
Yeah, and I think loving a show also means looking at it in ways where it's like, okay, well, this could have been done better in our opinion. Mm-hmm. And then, these parts are great. So I think I'm like that with the original cartoon anyways. So, alrighty. So first, let's talk about the plot. I think a lot of people have said this and I'm kind of sharing the same sentiment too, but I feel like the exposition with this episode was a little bit heavy in some places. Even though I like complicated stories, I normally don't have a hard time following storylines if it's presented in an entertaining way and not just fed to you, with a bunch of dialogue. Then I think that's better versus when, they have to give all this like exposition dumping. That's one main thing I'm looking for in an adaptation is how much exposition dumping is there? Are you telling me the plot, or are you showing it through everything else that goes into a TV show or
right? They were trying to get to the meat, and you want more of an appetizer.
Not even that. Just I know I went in expecting that there's probably going to be some exposition dumping, but I had the live action movie in mind, and that's what I was judging it against, because that was one thing I hated about the live action movie is all the exposition dumping. And while I think the Netflix show does it better, I think there were some parts where they were still trying to spoon feed you the plot and, the background and everything about the Avatar cycle, the different nations through the dialogue instead of showing it in some other ways. At least that's my opinion.
I agree. So like Aang finding out slowly about himself or his past selves, they have to just tell you straight up what's going on.
That I could kind of forgive because, you know, it's set up to where with Gyatso being a mentor, it's set up to where he does have to tell Aang all of this stuff.
Right.
I understand that a teacher and a mentor is going to take time to sit you down and explain those things. But I think the way that the avatar cycle was explained and just the concept of having an avatar, it was awkward, and I feel like there is a missed opportunity there. You know which part I'm talking about? It was a callback to the opening monologue of the cartoon where it showed all the different avatars in the avatar cycle, and it was trying to explain, you know, water, earth, fire, air, and what the avatar is there to do. I think that could have been handled differently because somebody who's watching this for the first time is going to be like, okay, I'm lost already. We get it because we understand.
Right.
But if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody that's watching this for the first time, that's what went wrong with the movie.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but isn't it Monk Gyatso? I mean, that was his job, right? Was that who was narrating?
No, it was a female voice. And I'm sure it's later, it'll answer like who that voice is. It was a sequence where it was showing the different avatars, like past avatars.
Okay.
I think that could have been handled differently instead of just having a no-face person delivering that monologue. And then, like I said, Grand's monologue. I think having Gran be the one to do it was a good idea. I just think it could have been delivered a little bit differently because when she started into it, it wasn't obvious that she was reciting something or like telling a story. She was just kind of looking at that banner that had the different elemental symbols.
Did her monologue and then turned around and said, "We all know the story."
Yes. So I think if they would have made it more obvious that she was reciting something, it took me a while to realize that. I was like, is she saying it organically or is she recalling something? You know what I mean?
It would have been, yeah, I get what you're saying. So it would have been better if there was like if she was looking back on something.
Yeah, or like
if she
close your eyes.
Right,
or,
so she was thinking it instead of...
Yeah, or even reading it from somewhere. I thought, oh, she was like coming up with it, but then it wasn't coming off as natural sounding. And then I realized when she said, oh, we all know the story. It's like, oh, okay, this is something that they've all heard before. So I think there was a missed opportunity there as well.
Reading it, but...
It wasn't obvious to me. They have to set all that stuff up. I get that. But what do you think?
What do I think on... how they set it up? Or...
Yeah, and having to explain the things that we know that they have to explain.
I didn't have any problems with it, but that's not where my problem lies in the plot of everything.
So where does it lie?
Just on the little things they could have done differently. I guess, I don't know, because it's not our first time watching it. You know what I mean? Like, since we've seen the cartoon, so it's not...
If you were
if I was a first-time watcher...
Yeah.
I don't see any problems with what they did.
Oh, really? So we're kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Because I feel...
If you're new to this, geez, I think they did a good job.
You think that somebody new would have been able to follow it without having to Google?
That's what I think. Maybe Netflix brought in some new eyes that hadn't watched the cartoon. I liked what they did. I didn't see any problems with it.
Okay. That's fair. So that's where we have opposing opinions on that one. I will say where I feel like they did do the exposition well, where it felt like it came about naturally, was when Fire Lord Sozin was revealing a little bit of his plan to that Earthbender before he got burnt to a crisp. So I was actually worried that it was going to fall into the trope of, oh, villain revealing all the secrets and plans to somebody. I thought that it was going to be the trope of, like, you know, when, this happens so many times, but you know, in Incredibles, for example, the bad guy in that, he jokes about like, oh, you got me monologuing, because the trope is that the villain monologues about their plan and reveals the plan to...
While they're talking, they figure a way out.
So I thought it was going to fall into that, and that Sozin's going to be like, oh, this is our plan, then we're actually going to attack the airbenders. But no, he actually... killed the guy before saying anything. All he said was, we have higher goals, or we've set our goals higher, and then burned the guy. And then it was, I don't know, maybe another general or whoever was in the room with Sozin that said, well, the airbenders aren't really a threat. And then that's when Sozin explained to that guy, well, there's one person there that could be a threat, and that's why we're going after them. So I thought that exposition was done well because you had another character asking or bringing a point up, and it allowed for that exposition to come a little bit more naturally. So
I loved how Sozin was so brutal. I loved it. That dude. Hey, he says, remember, no survivors. Or what does he say? Something about, we're killing everyone.
During the attack?
Yeah.
He was...
Right when they're shooting up their fire to go up to the Southern Air Temple.
Oh, I missed that he said that.
Oh, yeah. Remember, no prisoners.
I will say that this first half, it was darker than I thought it was going to be. But the thing is, I was kind of hoping that they would go there. I didn't think they were going to go there because it's like, oh, kids may be watching. This was originally a cartoon. We need to make it family friendly. And I was worried that they weren't going to go there. And I didn't even think about firebenders, somebody obviously has to get burned at some point. I didn't even think about that. So in that opening sequence where that earthbender did get burned, the first time they showed that, I audibly gasped.
Yeah, no mercy.
I was like, I immediately and I was shocked in a good way, as weird as that sounds, because I did not think they were going to go there.
I loved it. I was giddy.
As somebody that enjoys darker shows and isn't fazed by, we love Game of Thrones and The Last of Us and The Witcher. So, it's really nothing to us. I just didn't think that they would have.
I love that they went there.
I do too. And then the ending of the episode, not meaning to skip ahead, but do you feel like that there is enough momentum at the end of the episode to get people to watch the next episode and see how the story is going to unfold?
Well, they had to rush it, understandably, but yeah, because now Aang's like, I have to do what they wanted me to do. Master all 4 elements. I feel like they missed out on something really important was when Aang, was in the Avatar state, destroying everything there. Mm-hmm. And you had Katara, yell out Aang. But instead of, like the cartoon where which I loved, which all they had to do was have Katara at least touch him, reach,
grab his hand like she did.
Something, yeah, hey, we're your family now. That's all they had to say.
I see what you mean by that.
You missed the connection between Aang, Katara, and Sokka. Right now, I don't know why Katara and Sokka want to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
They didn't really establish that for me.
Why they should care.
And they had an opportunity right there at the end to pull that together. Okay.
I wonder...
Giving Aang a reason to not destroy everything, to not feel as bad as he was.
Yeah.
I do have friends here that care about me.
Are they considered friends at this point, though? Because
it's so rushed,
you said, I don't know if any of that would have made sense since he didn't have that initial connection with Katara right off the bat.
Oh, now you're going back. Recall.
So I don't know if they included the whole grabbing his hand thing at the end. Katara grabbing his hand and pulling him down. I probably would have felt like, that kind of came out of nowhere.
But you don't even have to grab. Something out of Sokka as well. Is Sokka, hey, we're your family.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like Sokka and Aang have more of the friendship right now because Sokka already had a little bit of character growth in this episode when he went from, he was going to give up Aang to the Fire Nation to listening to Katara and standing up to Zuko, which, was probably kind of scary for him. But he decided to stand up to him and not do the easy thing, which was just give Aang up. So I feel like, if anything, Sokka and Aang had more of some kind of budding friendship, not as much with Katara. So.
I agree. Well, I think that probably happened when Aang said, no one's ever stood up for me before.
Yeah.
Other than the thousands of airbenders that died. But I do love when Aang was like, I'm going to do what they wanted me to do, which is master all 4 elements. And Sokka says, oh, is that all? And they just skipped right over it. Let's pause for a laugh there because that was pretty funny. But Aang was so serious in that moment, which is another thing. Aang is supposed to be playful, and
they showed a little bit of that when he saw the Water Tribe kids playing. You could tell that he wanted to go play.
He got hit by a snowball.
It's because everything towards the end got rushed, which actually brings me to my next point. I think this is why I feel like, as far as pacing goes, The first half was great. I loved it. The first half was new for everybody. The Airbender genocide, that was alluded to and there were flashbacks and stuff, but it was not shown in the cartoon. So all of that stuff with Monkey Yatso and talking about the Comet Festival and then actually showing the Fire Nation attack. And of course the opening scene with the Earthbender that was trying to run away from the Firebenders. None of that was really in the original. And even so, I thought it was great. And I'm glad that they added all of that. And I'm glad that they started with all of that. But then it felt like there was not enough time for the last half, which was all the stuff that they were adapting from the original. So my question for you is, do you think that they should have sacrificed some of that first half to allow for more time for the second half and to be able to tell that and develop that properly? Or what do you think should have been done?
I thought the first half, it was fantastic. So I wouldn't sacrifice any of that first half. It would be, just putting in little things that we mentioned, but to bring those characters together, Sokka, Aang, and Katara. Because there really wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
I didn't feel.
It felt lacking.
And it would only take a couple of things to do that. But yeah, I wouldn't sacrifice any of that, any of the first half, because honestly, that was the best part.
I agree. I wouldn't sacrifice any of that. You know what they should have done is made this first episode an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
And then allow for more time for, when Aang wakes up in the Water Tribe and meeting Katara and Sokka, and just allow for more time to really let that develop, include some of the more lighthearted moments, and let their friendship start to show. Because right now it's like, are they actually friends right now?
How did they know how to fly Appa?
Oh, yeah. So that was a change. They didn't have to say yip, yip to get Appa to fly.
Yeah, they just cut right to flying.
Yeah. I will say that was a moment that I did like, was that cut from...
Yeah, there's no way you're going to get me on...
Yeah. And then he's screaming.
Flying.
That, I feel like that is like the spirit of the cartoon, and I audibly chuckled. So I thought that was good. I actually thought that, oh yeah, that's how it was in the original cartoon, but I think you told me that it wasn't.
Sokka's like, this kid's a liar. This animal can't fly. Well, he's my flying bison. There's no such thing as a flying bison. Can't fly.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, is they didn't take time to have those interactions between Aang and the Water Tribe. They've never seen an airbender before. They don't know what a sky bison is because that's not something that existed during their lifetime. So I think there could have been more time with Aang trying to prove, yes, I have a flying bison, and more time with him being in denial. Was he ever in denial about what happened?
Aang?
Yeah.
No, he's like, hey, where am I at?
He was, I felt like he was pretty quick to accept what happened. And I almost wonder if there were scenes cut, because they went from Gran telling Aang that he's the last airbender, and understandably he runs out. Then the next time that we come back to Aang, he and Katara are talking about waterbending, and Katara's practicing her waterbending. There was no scene where Sokka and Katara introduced themselves to Aang, and just having that introduction is everybody else.
Him being more playful.
And also struggling with his denial, and then eventually accepting, I really am the last airbender. The gravity of that, coming to that realization, oh my gosh, I really am. I will say, though, that for having only half that episode to adapt the already established material, I will say, and this is why I still gave it a 7, I will say that they did enough for me. There were still some small things, like you said, little details here and there. If they would have added that, it would have really leveled it up. But yeah, maybe those things did just get cut out, unfortunately.
I'm still stuck half in, half out. I'm excited. They left me feeling I want to watch the next episode, right? So I'm not giving up on them, but I've lost a little hope.
Okay, well, we'll see. Another thing that I was wondering too is, how long did it take them to get to the Southern Air Temple from the Water Tribe? As a first-time watcher, would you understand that it was just it was a sudden cut, and it's okay? How much time passed? Is the Southern,
like that afternoon?
How long does it take? How big is this world? I think that's part of the world building, is understanding that you can't just get from point A to point B just like that.
How cut off was the water tribe from everyone else?
Yeah.
Is the question.
A few other changes from the original story that I thought were interesting. So in the original, when Gyatso was talking to the council and they're telling him, Aang needs to begin his training now, in the cartoon, Aang overhears that he's going to have to be sent away and has to begin his avatar training.
Right, so he runs away.
Yeah, and that's what made him decide to actually run away. But in this show, Aang doesn't hear any of that.
Right.
And when we rewatched it, I just caught it this time, that all he said to Appa was, I need to go up where I can, I don't know if he said think clearly, or basically he needed to go for a ride to clear his head. So does that mean he technically did not run away?
No, he was going to, let's call it, meditate somewhere else.
So I think that's going to cause changes to the storyline quite a bit, because in this version, Aang's choices get taken away from him quite a bit, whereas in the original, he made these choices that had consequences. He overheard the council, decided to run away, and so he was not there when the Fire Nation attacked. But in this one, he didn't make that choice to necessarily run away from his responsibilities. He said that he was scared and he was afraid of his responsibilities, but I don't think that it was clear whether or not he was choosing to actually flee from his responsibilities. What do you think?
I think he went away to contemplate how it was him that was going to save the world. And technically that is running away.
Then he turned back around, though.
Did he turn around?
He was, yeah. So he told, when they got caught in the storm, Aang's like, oh, okay, Appa, maybe we need to head back. So that's why he turned around, and then that's when they got caught in the wave. Okay. So I think he was heading back, which kind of changes things because...
You're looking too deep, babe.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, because then he would have less to feel guilty about.
I agree. He doesn't feel like he abandoned them, like in the cartoon where he was like...
Yeah. And then
he felt so sad.
He also didn't lie to Katara and Sokka about being the Avatar, because in the cartoon they ask, hey, do you know...
Sokka said, I know he had something to hide.
Yeah, but...
He's a coward.
I mean, I guess it was lying by omission, but nobody asked him about the really Avatar.
Didn't Sokka say he ran away?
Yeah. Yeah, he said that...
What do our listeners think?
One, did Aang lie?
Did Aang run away? Do you see that as Aang running away, or how do you feel about that?
Yes, did Aang technically make the decision to run away?
I see where you're going. It kind of changes a lot.
Yep, and that's all I'll say about that.
Wow, blew my mind.
I know, and I don't think Aang didn't have a chance to hide that he was the Avatar because of how fast things were moving. I don't think anybody asked him about the Avatar.
Aang never lied.
He never lied. So technically, how is he hiding something that he wasn't asked about?
Yeah, fill that plot, Netflix.
I just wanted to point that out.
Can I bring up something?
Yeah.
Real quick. Just real quick. The whistle. What the heck?
I don't think that that's bad. I mean...
Should we tell everyone what we're talking about?
The bison whistle. Yeah. Aang has the bison whistle from the get-go.
You don't think that's bad?
I think that's such a minor thing. Because in the cartoon, he comes across it pretty randomly.
Yeah, but he spends all their copper pieces on a whistle. I thought that, but maybe
I think it's fine.
Nostalgic.
And I don't think that one is too big of a deal.
Okay, we can overlook it. Sorry.
Okay, so now I want to... We talked about... Obviously, we had a lot of opinions about the plot and pacing and all that, because we're already quite a bit over our time. Anyways, let's move on to talking about the characters and also the actors. And I just want to say this, just from the get-go, as a rule for us, is that, especially since there are a lot of young actors in this, I don't want this to become,
100. I see what you're saying. 100%. We are not going to bash any child actors. Their performance. We're not going to be mean to anyone. We're going to point out flaws that we've seen in the script or the flaws in how they portrayed something.
Yeah, because I think what people tend to forget
is stuff they did that was great.
Yeah,
right?
I think what people tend to forget is that, yes, you have the people acting, but a show or a movie is so much more than that. You know, they're taking direction. There's, you know, the writers and the script and all
tons
these
of editing, right?
Yeah, and the different editing cuts, all these things factor into how that character is being portrayed. Mm-hmm. You never know whenever a director tells them like, hey, do it this way instead. So I think that's something that, you know, people should try to keep in mind, because I've seen a lot of mean comments, whether it's this show or really any show, that doesn't matter if they're kids, if they're adults, people just be mean. And I don't like it. Let's be more like Iroh.
So who was your favorite portrayal of a character? Like, what was your favorite character?
I think for me, it would be Aang. And not surprisingly, because Aang was already a favorite of ours before even watching this episode. But so far, Aang is my favorite character. And the way that Gordon Cormier has portrayed him has been spot on for me. Especially since I feel like there was some emotion lacking with this episode. But where there was emotion, a lot of it came from Gordon's face acting. You know, the teary-eyed moments.
He couldn't push out a tear.
Huh? Maybe they decided not to have him have tears flowing. I don't know. So, but I thought he did a really good job, and he was adorable and also heartbreaking at times. And so, yeah, he was my favorite. What about you?
My favorite character so far would have to be Zuko. Just because I feel like he, from the cartoon, I know we shouldn't judge.
I mean, we're doing a lot of comparisons.
We'll do a lot of comparisons. If we're doing comparisons,
yeah.
Zuko, I feel, was the best character in my eyes because he is so arrogant and so ignorant. Right. So I loved Zuko's character. I think he did a fantastic job.
I do too.
Yeah, I love that he's super arrogant. Like, I heard the last Avatar took on a whole fleet of firebenders and destroyed them all. I think I can beat him, like. And my least favorite character is, I don't think people are going to like this.
Uh-oh.
It's a toss-up, right?
Okay,
so my first one is Iroh.
You have two?
I have two, yes. Is that, can I do that? Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay. Iroh. I don't understand why you couldn't just be honest with Aang. Because Iroh's pretty honest.
Honest about what?
So Aang, after Iroh did his speech with Aang, right? Mm-hmm. Explaining why the war's going on and why the Fire Nation's doing what they're doing. Aang asked him, is that how you feel? And Iroh's like, I gotta go. By the way, you want some tea? And then my second character, which everyone's going to be mad about, is Aang.
What?
Yeah, I didn't fully... he doesn't have me invested in his character. And I don't mean Gordon. I don't mean Gordon.
As an actor.
As an actor. I meant the way they're portraying him. I felt like he could be way more playful, way more innocent. Right now, it seems like he's not innocent at all. Like, he's got his crap together. Does that make sense?
He's burdened.
You felt like he was burdened?
Yeah,
I felt like he was way too put together.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think that goes into...
He's 12 years old.
I think that goes into what I was saying earlier about, he didn't spend time in denial. I feel like he didn't really have that struggle that made you think, oh, what's he gonna do? Because, yeah, he was very put together for a 12-year-old. So I see what you're saying there.
Thanks for agreeing with me.
I think that's what a lot of people were afraid of, like the other fans going into this, was that Aang was going to be too...
And they're going to have their chances to show his vulnerability. Vulnerability. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, they're going to have their chances to show, a different side of him that is not so put together. Show that 12-year-old struggling with what's going on and not... Yeah. It seemed like he was so businesslike.
Yeah, especially
Let's get to it.
Especially since Gyatso...
I'm the Avatar!
Monk Gyatso did say, I don't think he's ready.
Yeah.
But then towards the end, it was like, well, he sounds like he's ready.
Let's do this.
But, yeah, I see what you're saying. But I don't know. I enjoyed watching him for what
I'm not
they
saying
had to
I
do.
didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
the kid is fantastic. Like you said, his facial expressions, I really liked. I felt like he did a really good job on reacting to what Monk Gyatso said to him, or, what Zuko or Sokka, acting off of what they're saying. But
what's interesting is that in our previous episode, you talked about how your favorite character from the original was Aang, at least for this first season. Yeah. And that was all about my boy Zuko. Yeah. And now we've flip-flopped. Yeah. So I'm interested to see if
Did you like Zuko?
I like Zuko. The only thing is, right now, there's nothing to love about him for me because he didn't get that much time. And I don't think he necessarily needed more time, but I think compared to the other characters, if you're going to keep the episode to only an hour long, there's not much time to show more of him.
I think they killed it. Where he's like, you know what? We're gonna show everyone that we can do this, but if we can't, we're gonna die trying.
Yeah, I think he portrayed his character well, going from cartoon to
gonna restore that honor, bro.
Honor. He didn't say it. He did say...
No, he's going to restore that honor.
He did say destiny.
Oh, yeah.
Destiny.
It's my destiny.
So, yeah, so far, I think he's great.
Go Zuko.
Not like super in love with the character just yet, but like you said, there's going to be more chances to see how that character unfolds throughout the rest of the season. So, yeah, I want to take some time to just briefly discuss the other characters, too. Let's just go in order from appearance. Okay. So let's talk about Gyatso. What did you think about Monk Gyatso?
I thought for this live action, he was too serious.
Gyatso?
I guess maybe that's not the right word. Okay, so let me think about it. What do you think about Monk Gyatso?
I really liked Monk Gyatso. I think there was a good combination of a little bit of that silliness. You can tell they kind of have that inner child in them as well. So I thought it was a good combination of him being lighthearted and then also being serious when he needed to be. There were times where I felt like he was a little bit cheesy, but it wasn't anything.
That was my favorite parts.
Was
like when Gyatso, I felt like he was actually Aang's friend.
Yeah.
Instead of being the mentor or being the old guy. Because they were like, well, that was 100 years ago. I wasn't around. He's like, you could have fooled me. Haha, you little shit.
Yeah, so sorry, parents.
Yeah, sorry.
Gyatso was one of the characters that made me feel, because of course we knew what was coming up. Even though in the cartoon it didn't flat out show it, we knew that the genocide was going to happen. We knew what happened to Monk Gyatso. But even so, when it was coming up, Zoe and I had to hold each other because we were like, oh no, here it comes. And like we were teary-eyed, I'm not going to lie. And when he gathered the air nomad children and they barricaded themselves in the room, I was like, oh my gosh, he has the children. Because in the cartoon, all we see is that his remains are found in a room. And we don't know why he was found in that specific room, what he was doing, how exactly he died, aside from obviously, being burned. So the fact that he died defending children and then those children died too, it was emotional for me.
Yeah, they did a really good job on that. I didn't think about that, but yeah, they did a really great job. Other than Gyatso, didn't really get much of a fight scene. I mean, it was so short.
You
would have got the best of us, but we have the comet. You're done.
You think that they should have shown a fight between the two of them, Sozin and Gyatso?
Yeah, because I want to see Gyatso, like, his power.
Interesting. I actually like that they didn't show it because it leaves a little bit of mystery, and then we're left to fill in the blanks. However...
Like, was Aang, is he such a good airbender because he's the Avatar? Or was Gyatso such a good teacher?
Probably both, but I mean, I don't know. I am hoping that they have flashbacks in future episodes because I would love to see more of Monk Gyatso.
Oh, I'm sure they will. That guy's
he's a joy to watch.
Be on screen.
Yes, I loved watching him, and he's just so sweet. And
like how, as a woman, you were like, it was sweet that he was protecting the children, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, you need to go down like a BA, man. Come on.
He did.
No.
Yeah, he did. You think he didn't?
I don't feel like he went down like a BA.
I think so.
I feel like he wasn't giving everything he had.
Are you serious?
That's how I felt.
I think he gave all that he could, especially since, I mean, it was the comet.
Okay.
So what more could he have done? I think he knew at that point they were done for.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
He wasn't going to go down without a fight. So that's just my opinion.
I feel like he went down without a fight, but...
No, I don't agree, because it didn't show it. That's the thing. And the blanks that I have filled is that he did his best and went down.
So you think maybe they'll fill in some of our
I don't think they need to.
With flashbacks?
Not with that fight, no.
Okay.
Because whose flashback is it? The people that would have the flashback.
Oh, we can go on about this forever. So, what did you think about Katara?
Did I mention my least favorite character?
You could go ahead.
Because you said you had two. It was Iroh and
I think you
Aang.
did, but hey.
Did I say mine?
I think you can go ahead and add another one if you want to.
If I didn't, it's Katara.
Oh, obviously. Gosh. Sorry, Katara. She hates you twice. Not hate, sorry.
I don't hate Katara.
No.
I just think that I wish she had a little bit more fire in her, which is kind of ironic since she's a waterbender. And passion, yeah, because Katara is supposed to be a strong, hot-tempered, waterbender girl. And her hot tempers in the original is what caused the iceberg to start breaking.
Right. Yep.
So I feel like there wasn't that fire. I don't know what the water equivalent would be, but there wasn't that fire in this version of Katara. I am hoping, though, that maybe they're doing this on purpose so that she does have more room to grow, to express herself a little bit more and become more of that strong-willed and strong-headed person. Because I guess in the cartoon, she started like that from the get-go. So then where do you go from there? Like, you could tell she was already a strong character.
You wanted her to be the mother of the tribe.
Not necessarily the mother. I just wanted more emotion. But I'm also willing to think that maybe this was a choice that they made because then it'll make the growth a little bit more obvious. That's what I'm hoping. I'm really hoping I see more from Katara in future episodes. I think how they're portraying the relationship between Katara and Sokka is great. I just think that there were moments where, they could have had Katara react a little bit more and have more of a sense of urgency, if that makes sense. So, what do you think?
I think she was boring.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think they could have done a better job of writing her character. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I'll wait to weigh in maybe next episode, but there's got to be a ton of growth, or it's just her being, I'm a bender, but I'm trying.
She kind of faded into the background for me.
Yep,
which is which is the opposite of what she was supposed to be for this first episode.
She doesn't seem like a main character.
Yeah.
To me.
What about Sokka for you? And I feel like we got to talk about this because everybody made such a big uproar about Sokka and, the person that was cast and how they thought he was going to be portrayed and all that. So did you enjoy Sokka's portrayal or no?
I feel like there's some missed opportunities for him to be funny and for him to be comical.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Sokka's, he's there, he's protecting the tribe. He, don't let the kids overpower it. Don't let them push you around.
I did like that little
hey, you guys need to work on this. You were a little sloppy out there.
But go ahead.
I loved how they threw you for a loop where, you didn't think that Sokka cared about Aang, but really he was the one that cared about Aang.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt. Like, hey, we got to save him. But obviously he was already thinking that. He was like, wait a minute, this weird kid, there's something going on here.
I think when trying to choose a favorite character so far, it was actually between Aang and Sokka for me. I enjoyed Sokka. You're right. Kind of like what Zoe said, she wished that he was funnier. But honestly, what it looks like to me is they're trying to find a good balance between Sokka, who is burdened with being in charge of, his whole tribe at only, how old is he? I can't remember how old he was when all the Water Tribe men left.
I get what you're saying. You think that him being more serious, but I think they've tried to make it funny. It's just the pacing of the show.
Yeah.
Because his lines are pretty funny.
I will say, I think Sokka had the best lines. Not everyone's going to agree with this. This is a hot take, but I think they're striking a good balance between funny Sokka and then also Sokka who wants to be taken seriously enough that he's, the acting leader of the tribe. So.
Okay, I really want to know what you thought about Iroh.
Kind of the same with what I said about Zuko. I liked Iroh, and I like the actor, but so far there hasn't been enough there shown screen time for me to be able to fall in love with him as a character, especially if I was watching this for the first time. You obviously see that, he's not a big baddie like all the other Fire Nation people. He's obviously not purely evil, and you get a little hint of that. I do also like when he mentioned to Zuko, hey, your dad thought that capturing the Avatar is an impossible task, so your return might be a little bit unexpected, and trying to hint at that without straight up being like, hey, your dad sent you basically on a wild goose chase to find the Avatar. You said that Iroh is one of your least favorites, so I'm interested to see.
So far. I mean, I got to get past his beard because his beard is amazing, right? But other than that, I'm waiting because hopefully there's a lot of character building there. There's a lot we don't know about Iroh.
Okay. So I think those are all the characters that I want to talk about for right now. So let's quickly talk about the cinematography. I thought the visuals were amazing.
They did fantastic.
It was awesome, which I already knew from watching the trailers that it was going to be so much better than what the movie was. All of the bending, just all the special effects. It was awesome. We've already mentioned the opening scene several times and how all of that looked amazing. What I liked was just how dark they allowed those scenes to be, to really give you an idea of, hey, these people are evil, because the world of Avatar, the cartoon, is really bright and colorful. And I feel like they successfully brought in that vibrancy to, the scenes where it showed the Southern Air Temple and the Water Tribe. And this is a very colorful show, even as a live action. But man, those opening scenes where it was just dark and gritty, and I loved it. And it allowed the fire to really stand out and seem threatening. And so, yeah, the color grading for all of that was amazing. It was just all amazing. So,
agreed. I loved it. I don't have anything bad to say about the cinematography. I loved how they showed at the beginning with the earthbender when he reaches down into the ground and tightens his wrist, turning to pull that ground up. And I was like, okay, this is BA.
And then another part that I liked how they shot it and how they edited it was the Gyatso and Sozin standoff, and how that was edited against when Aang and Appa were caught in the storm, and it kind of went back and forth. So it was showing Aang struggling in the storm with Appa, and then Gyatso struggling, trying to hold Sozin back. And just that back and forth just made it really intense, because eventually both scenes climax to where both of them are overtaken by obviously different things, but just having those two scenes play out side by side, and Aang going through the storm and not knowing what's happening at the same time in the Fire Nation. So, and then the last thing that I wanted to bring up about the cinematography was Aang and Iroh's conversation, where, Aang was locked up on the Fire Nation ship, and Iroh was talking to him on the other side of the, what do you call that? The bars, the jail bars, or whatever cell that he was in. And I just really loved that symbolism, because how they shot that, first of all, the way that they shot it was kind of reminiscent of some later scenes in the cartoon. They showed Aang and Iroh on either side of the bars, and some shots we were on Aang's side of the bars looking, through the bars at Iroh, and then other times it was from the other perspective where Aang was behind the bars. So there are some scenes where it looked like Iroh was the one that was locked up, but they're back and forth with that conversation. And the fact that it was happening on both sides of jail bars was symbolic to me, because it symbolized naivety versus wisdom, and young versus old, and, your idealistic young kid versus the realistic older guy. So having that symbolism, I don't know. I just really liked how they shot that, and the fact that they're on either side of the jail bars. Because
I love you. I see, you really looked into that.
What do you mean looked into it? I came up with it.
I know. I'm just saying, you really thought about that.
Of course.
I didn't think of it as who. Are you saying who's really in jail?
kind of, or who's the one that's being held back? Who's the one being constricted or in like their own personal,
I feel like you're looking way into that.
Yeah, I mean, don't you with some shows and just how certain things are shot? Maybe it's because as a photographer, composition makes a huge difference and it means a lot. So the way that they composed this shot felt like it was trying to convey that like the experience versus the non-experience, and they're back and forth because Aang is talking about idealistic things, respecting each other and all this and that. And then Iroh was trying to tell him, yeah, that sounds nice, but this is how it actually is. That is what that conversation was to me.
But
and
he spoke truth to the Avatar.
Yeah. And not that Aang is wrong. He has great ideals. And sometimes I feel like Aang in that way, especially in our world today, that it's like, this is how the world is supposed to be, but then you have the more experienced person that kind of pulls you down a little bit.
Yeah, because Iroh was like, some people think there can't be peace until you're dealt with, right?
Yeah. I just thought that was beautifully shot, and I don't know if anybody else caught that symbolism, but that's how I interpreted it, so.
That was very sweet.
Yeah. And then, since we're with the Fire Nation at the moment, the Fire Nation theme, as far as music goes, that was the only theme that I really picked up in this episode. I was trying to see if any music really stood out to me, whether it was something new or if it was something familiar. Nothing really stood out to me except for bits and pieces of the Fire Nation theme here and there. What about you?
Yeah, I never thought about it. Thanks for that curveball.
It was in the notes.
I never thought about... I guess the only time I'm listening to the music is the beginning.
Really?
And the end.
Like, you don't hear it? Like, think about when you were younger and watched Pirates of the Caribbean or Lord of the Rings or those big grand epic stories.
Yeah, good name drops.
Did you ever pay attention to the music?
Well, yeah, but those are iconic.
And Avatar is iconic.
Very iconic. I'm just saying, I just noticed the theme song and then the theme song.
Did it play the main theme? Because I don't even know if I know.
See, now...
That's the thing. Nothing jumped out at me, and I hope that changes because I feel like the music is almost like a character of its own. Like the
All right, help us out here. Listen to the music. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that was a lot of talking. Apparently, I was worried that, hey, we won't have enough to fill an hour-long episode, but we had a lot. Before we move on, though, is there anything else you want to discuss as far as plot or the cinematography, the pacing, how they executed the episode? I think
we've covered it. I think I'll have a lot more next episode.
Yeah. Alrighty, well then let's move on to some more lighthearted things. Let's talk about our favorite bending moments. So for each episode, I want each of us to identify a bending moment that really struck each of us. So I will let you go first.
Okay, I kind of already touched on my favorite bending moment, which was the beginning with the Earthbender running away from the Fire Nation, really reaching down, looking like he was drawing that energy, uncorking the ground, and it really, the ground shaking, and then, he's throwing earth.
Well, I think it's amazing.
It was so good.
I think it's amazing that you picked up on it looked like he was like pulling energy.
Yeah, like he was like tightening the screw, but he was really like pulling the earth towards his fist.
Because isn't that what Aang was saying too to Katara when he said, feel the energy around you or something like that?
Yeah, feel the energy, and it was so good. And then he threw up a huge wall of earth. It was my favorite part. Yeah. Okay, what was your favorite bending
You're going to hate
moment?
Me because same.
Oh no.
Well, so the moment is really just that whole first sequence. And
sorry guys, my back's hurting for my wife. I have to carry her through this podcast.
Okay. Yeah, sure. No, but it really is though, because that is what had me hooked at the very beginning. And I feel like that for someone that's watching this for the first time, that would have hooked them into like, how else do you start the show but by showcasing the bending like that?
Yeah.
Was that all for bending? Bending moment?
Yep.
All right. Another thing I want to quickly mention for each episode is the hybrid animals, because we know that the hybrid animals are going to be a major thing with this series. I'm sure that there are going to be new ones in each episode, so kind of wanted to do almost like an animal watch, With that being said, I didn't see too many animals in this episode.
No, we got Appa.
Well, we have to talk about Appa.
Bison.
He is Appa. Did you like Appa?
Yeah, I loved Appa. I feel like they could do more with him, but it'll come in time.
Do you think he looks great? I think we already talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah, it looked good.
It made me realize, as much as I love Appa, to see that in real life would actually be terrifying.
He's a beast. Yeah, could you imagine
but in
if
a
he was
cute
like
way.
Baymax, our dog, just drool?
Yeah, well, that's why I loved seeing Appa on screen, because he kind of reminded me of our dog Baymax, who is a Great Dane, and he's mostly white. But the way Appa growls and makes those noises reminded me of Baymax, because Baymax kind of does a growly, purring thing that you've taught him. So, so when I hear Appa, I was like, "Oh, that's Baymax."
No, they did a good job with Appa. There was another one.
The ostrich horse?
Yeah, the ostrich horse.
Ostrich horses. So I'm pretty sure that's what I saw in those opening sequences. I saw smaller looking bird things, but it was kind of dark to see. So I don't know if they were like some sort of chicken things, or maybe they were baby ostrich horses. Maybe somebody can help me out. But
that's something we're going to be looking forward to, is hybrid animals.
I immediately noticed the ostrich horses, though, because every time I see them, even in the cartoon, I always think they look like chocobos from Final Fantasy. You know what I'm talking? You probably don't.
Yeah, don't even. We're not going there.
I'm just saying, chocobos came first. Avatar.
That sounds like a chocolate bar to me.
But they look exactly the same. But those were the only ones that I really noticed, aside from, like the fish that were swimming. They just looked like regular fish to me. So, okay. So what about memorable quotes? What was your favorite quote? Or do you have like a quote that stood out to you?
Yes. My favorite quote was when Katara was speaking to Sokka. And Sokka Dad said, "We have to protect the tribe." And she said, "Well, don't you remember what Mom said? We have to protect those who can't protect themselves."
That's very relevant to this day.
What was yours?
Mine is a line from Aang, again, going back to that jail scene on the ship. And he tells Iroh, "Peace comes from respecting life, not killing and destroying it." Which also is very relevant to our world today. I actually think your quote and the quote that I chose, I think they go hand in hand.
I agree. Okay. You ready to read a couple listeners' comments?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what we did was we posted a question on Facebook and Instagram. It was our question of the week. So we'll periodically be asking questions for our followers and listeners, so that way we get some input from you all.
We're doing this because we want to hear from people that enjoy what we enjoy, and it's what gives us motivation to keep doing our podcast.
Our question of the week was, did this premiere episode meet your expectations? And what was your favorite and least favorite part? Because the episode just came out a few days ago, we didn't have as much time to get comments from others, but we did get a couple, and then we did also get a voice message as well. So let's read the comments that we got. Pull it up here real quick.
Our first comment is from Aaron S. on Facebook. They say, "There definitely has been a lot of negative attention in the online reviews. I didn't think the first episode was that bad, but the struggle to convert a cartoon to live action was evident. Some things seemed a bit campy, but I'll keep watching to see how things further develop." Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that there were some scenes where it was evident that, that converting cartoon scenes and actions into live action is not easy, because some things just don't translate well. So I do feel like there were some scenes that seemed a little bit cheesy, but I chalked it up to, well, they're trying to adapt something from a cartoon. But that's why I said in the last episode that trying to find that balance between doing a good adaptation and giving the fans what they want, it's a tricky balance between that and creating a good live action series. So,
thank you for your comment.
All right, and then we have a comment over from Instagram from wisteria.art, and they said, "Standalone, I liked the characters, and there's so many scenes that I love that I feel would have fit so well if they stuck to the animated version story just a little more. Like the whole scene with Aang and Appa getting stuck in the storm. I just wish it didn't happen so early, but it was so good and the bending looks great. I just can't get past how dark they made it. Being that the animated show is like a comfort show for most of us, The scene with the firebenders attacking the air nomads and a man getting burned alive in like the first few minutes of the show was almost traumatizing. I'm sure it's a good watch if you're not comparing it to the animated show. I think I'm just not able to separate the two. So I already mentioned this earlier, but I liked how dark it got. I know some people don't, and they weren't expecting that, and I completely appreciate that just because, you know, if you're watching with your kids and you're like, oh, this is a show based off of a cartoon and you're watching with young kids, what they showed was traumatizing.
But you're never going to forget it.
No, but it's
memorable.
Like, should there have been a better warning? But the thing is, the original cartoon did have some dark themes. They just didn't flat out show some of the things. Like, the cartoon had genocide and war and, you know,
I like
death.
The darkness.
I did too.
Because it makes it, well, it will make for, you know, it will make it better when they come to the happier parts.
Oh, that
the
sounds
contrast.
This sounds like a good Ira quote. You would say, you can't have light without dark. But no, I totally get about if these kinds of scenes aren't your cup of tea, then yeah, I mean, I think that's completely valid to feel that way.
Yes, thank you for the comment.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have one more from Instagram. This is Carlene from Indiana. They say, yes, the show exceeded my expectations. To get the negativity out of the way, I disliked how Prince Zuko seemed willing to strike Sokka in the back after speaking about glory. My favorite part of this episode? Whew, that's rough. Maybe Zuko's CSI board, or Uncle visiting Aang in prison, or Aang's reaction to getting the keys. Monk Gyatso made me cry 2 or 3 times in my first watch, but I managed not to cry on my third watch. I loved The Notebook. Book 1 was my least favorite in the original series, and if that remains the same with this series, then I can't imagine how much I'll love Book 3. Oh, and they say that they are a firebender of the 41st Division, our favorite division.
I actually don't know what that means, but maybe we will find out. Maybe it's a comic or novel thing.
Oh, what is the CSI board?
You know Zuko's board where he had all his papers and stuff pinned up there? And it looked like maybe that's something out of CSI.
Oh, CSI
Yeah, it took me a
board.
moment to figure it out, but I like the board too because it shows...
I like that, Carlene. CSI board.
I think it shows how unhinged Zuko is, or hints that he's a little bit unhinged at this point. Because, I mean, he had a lot of...
He's a little bit psycho, a little bit psycho.
And then the part about when Aang got the keys, first of all, could he have grabbed those keys a little bit louder?
I don't know.
Because that was super loud.
That guard is slightly deaf.
Yeah, those jingled so loud, but you know.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Carlene. We appreciate your comment. And then let's go ahead and listen to the voice message that we got. Okay, so this message is from Taylor.
Hiya, my name's Taylor. I go by Taylink, though, on the internet, as I am a Lunar Fox VTuber over on Twitch. So I have been a longtime fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, literally since I was a child. And I actually typically watch it at least once a year around the summertime where the show takes place. I've been doing that since about 2010-ish. So needless to say, I've been pretty anxious about this new series coming out, considering how the live-action movie went, which we don't talk about. But I did manage to have some time to watch the first episode before I had to stream last night, and I'm more impressed than I thought I was going to be, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to watching the rest of it. Obviously, I still have some concerns with how the characters are depicted in the show versus the animation, which it is kind of hard to do, but some of the characters just don't have the same feel, whether it be like the same aggression or the same goofiness. It's a lot more realistic, which makes sense. So it may not be a bad thing. It's just taking me a little bit of time to adjust to. So far, better than I thought it was going to be, and I highly recommend any fans of Avatar: Last Airbender at least giving it a chance.
Yeah, I think that was well said, Taylor.
Loved it, Taylor.
And
It sounds like you sound very optimistic, and I love it.
I think went into it with realistic expectations. They went into it more cautiously, but then came out the other side a little bit more optimistic about it. So
I agree. I love how optimistic she sounds.
I think I am right where Taylor's at, because even though I had a lot of things to kind of complain about in this episode, like I said, I still gave it a 7, and I am optimistic that there will be some even better moments in future episodes. I would hate for it to be the opposite, where it starts out really good and then it gets worse and worse as it goes. So yeah, just want to remind everybody that we will post a question. I think it'll be like every week as we continue to watch the episodes and ask for your guys' opinions. So if you want a chance to have your comment read or have your voice message read and hear your voice on the podcast, then definitely follow us on Facebook and Instagram and keep an eye out for those posts. Alrighty, so before we wrap things up, do you have any closing thoughts?
I'm ready for episode 2.
I am too. It's going to be very hard to watch it little by little because there's so much circulating the internet right now, and I don't want that to affect our viewing experience. So, but now that we're, just about done with this podcast episode, that means we can get to watching episode 2 here pretty soon. So
I'm optimistic still.
Alrighty. Then let's wrap this episode up.
All right, everyone. That's our show for today. Thank you all for listening. We'd love if you'd leave us a rating on your favorite podcast app to help others find us. And don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any of our episodes.
Yes, and you can also stay up to date by following our socials at Avatar Nation Pod. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And also, we're going to be doing a giveaway soon on our Facebook and Instagram pages, so make sure to follow so you don't miss out on that. That's it for today. I'm Pauline.
And I'm Wes.
And you've been listening to Avatar Nation. See you next time.
Love you.